Cabo Delgado province in northern Mozambique has been the epicenter of a violent conflict which has claimed the lives of over 4,000 people and displaced several 100,000 more over the past 5 years. This conflict, among many other issues, has intensified the circulation of arms across the region. Why is that? I am Busisipo Siyobi, and to unpack the topic in more detail is my colleague Monique Bennett, Senior Researcher in the Governance and Insights and Delivery Program. You write on arms trafficking in Southern Africa. Please walk us through some of the contributing factors to the arms trafficking in the region.
Thanks, Busi. So arms trafficking in Southern Africa can be traced back to the political conflicts within Angola, Mozambique, South Africa, and Zimbabwe. The criminal networks that have developed are both transnational and local. Currently, the source of illegal weapons stems from a demand and supply from the conflict you mentioned in Cabo Delgado, but also through historical drug trafficking routes and corruption among police and other government officials. Corruption has caused the diversion of legal weapons into the hands of criminal networks.
Monique, walk us through why you chose Mozambique and South Africa as your leading case study for the story.
In Mozambique and South Africa, the arms trafficking trade has the greatest impact on societies within these countries. And we see in these countries that state-embedded actors play a leading role in the transfer of legal weapons or legal firearms into criminal hands. We also see that firearms are the most commonly used weapon in violent crime and in murder. And we see in Mozambique that high levels of crime in urban areas are closely linked to the firearm circulation.
So what are some of the interventions that have been put in place to combat illegal arms trafficking in these two countries?
Initially, post-civil war in Mozambique, there were several disarmament processes that took place, as well as a large initiative that took place over a number of years called Operation Rochelle, which looked to retrieve weapons from the civil war and also weapons that had flowed in during post-apartheid South Africa. Unfortunately, they had limited success. We also had the SADC protocol on firearms recently updated in 2020, but the implementation of this protocol hasn't been as effective and hasn't been seen within both these countries.
With that in mind, Monique, you mentioned that these interventions were not as successful. Have there been any follow-up projects to address the issue more effectively?
In South Africa, we've had an update on our Firearms Control Act, which was quite a significant moment in terms of trying to regulate legal firearms within South Africa. And that's actually had a positive impact on murder rates in South Africa over that period when it was implemented. And we've seen stricter controls on weapons flow in South Africa. However, it hasn't translated into the illegal market. So we still have the flow of legal weapons into an illicit market, and we're unable to retrieve either lost or stolen weapons from police or from military storage units and those kind of situations.
And finally, Monique, what can be done to combat illicit arms trafficking in the region?
I think there needs to be more transparency and accountability amongst the departments which deal with these kinds of issues. For example, the police and national armies and other government departments. When weapons are lost or stolen, when there's been robberies of storage houses or weapons caches, there needs to be accountability, and we need to have better systems in place to monitor those kind of situations. I think we also need an improved reporting system in terms of missing and stolen weapons, increase security around weapon storage units. For example, in KwaZulu-Natal, when we had the 2021 riots, we had a case where looters were stealing ammunition and weapons from storage houses, and we were unable to retrieve those stolen goods. I also think corruption and mismanagement of these organizations within the state play a big role in illicit markets gaining access to legal weapons. And then lastly, I think the SADC protocol can play quite an important role if implemented properly in these regions to create new mechanisms of retrieving illicit arms and stopping the flow of weapons between various countries, whether it's South Africa, Mozambique and Zimbabwe, or locally within the provinces.
Monique, thank you very much for sharing those insights. The flow of and proliferation of illegal arms only worsen conflict and armed criminal violence, posing a threat to peace, security, and governance in the Southern Africa region. For more in-depth discussions on policy matters in Africa, please join us again. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.